All right. Thanks everybody for joining me this morning. We'll go ahead and get started here. So hopefully y'all can hear me. If you can't hear me, let me know. We'll go ahead and get started here with Jack D. And again, I wanted to mention that if you're on here, I start taking questions up to an hour before. So Stephen G, who posted his question yesterday afternoon at 3:18, Ewan B, Charles D posted his questions after the office hours yesterday. If you're still on here, excuse me, if you're still on here, go ahead and post your question again. But if you post your question after Jack D here, then you're in good shape. So Rod, I will get to yours right after Jack. So we'll go ahead and get started with Jack. So Jack asked, do you manipulate both hands for extremely strong or weak grip, or just utilize your dominant hand? So I think he's asking basically when you are strengthening or weakening your grip, are you strengthening and weakening both hands, or are you only just doing your lead hand? And I'm not sure if you're maybe trying to do the ball striking masterclass drills or what, but basically when you are strengthening and weakening your grip, in general, you're doing it with both hands. So if you are strengthening your grip here with your lead hand, you're turning this that way, and that's basically what strengthening your grip means. So you're turning your hand on the grip, and that's more of a stronger grip, and the V in your hand is pointing more toward your right elbow if you're right-handed. And then your trail hand just comes in, and you have this crease in between your pads of your hand. So you see I've got this crease in between here, and that crease will go down right on top of that. So when your thumb turns this way, your other hand's going to be strengthened as well because it's coming in more on top of that. So in general, yes, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to necessarily have your hands that way. If you hit the ball better by having your right hand weaker, your trail hand weaker or stronger, that's completely fine. Really, the grip, the most important things about the grip are number one, basically making sure that you have what we call a short thumb. So we don't want to hold the club like that. So that'd be a long thumb. And the reason would be is that it's hard to have a lot of control when doing that, because you don't have a lot of security on the grip, and you don't want to have it like this too much in the lifeline of your hand, because it's going to be hard to get much hinge. So basically, you want to have a happy medium between the two, which is what we call the short thumb, which basically puts the club. There's a bone right here on your wrist. There's a little bone right there. You want to have the club basically right on that, and then basically like that. So that allows you. You can see I have the short thumb. That allows me to get some good hinge here, and it also allows me to have good the fingers nicely spread it out onto the grip, and it makes it easier to control. So that's one of the most important things. And then the other thing is to basically have your hands together in some way. So whether it be a 5-finger grip, 10-finger grip, which would be like this, kind of the baseball style grip, or it be an interlock grip or an overlap grip or some sort of variation, between all of that. That's really the most important things. Everything in between is really personal preference and what works best for you. So what may work better that's why you're going to look on tour and you're going to see all kinds of people using different grips. It's about finding what works the best for you. So, but you're going to see with basically every tour player, you're going to see the short thumb where they got good grip security, and you're going to see some. You're not going to see them with their hands spread apart. You're going to see them with their hands kind of together like this in some way, shape, or form. So those are really the only things that you have to do, I would say, that are essential. But other than that, everything in between, whether you have a weak, strong grip or weak right hand and strong trail hand or whatever it might be, everything else in between is really personal preference, which allows you to hit the ball the best. But yes, in general, it's good to have, if you are strengthening and weakening your grip, it's good to have this hand come in, the pads of your hand come in and come down right on top of your thumb here. So if you're looking from this angle, I've got my thumb, I got my pads in my hand, it come down right. They fit right there on top of that. So you can kind of see, and then your hands go on the grip like that. So I like an interlock grip. That's what I use. And that just gives me nice grip security. and feels really good. So you got to find what works best for you. But in general, yes, you want to rotate both hands. But it doesn't mean that you have to. All right. So Rod D says, what difference would a person with a flat swing have to make if you wanted to swing more upright? What difference would a person with a flat swing have to make if you wanted to swing more upright? So if you have a flat swing, basically what he means is if someone's swinging and their lead arm is kind of in line with their shoulders as they're going back. So really the difference is you're lifting more instead of kind of rotating more. So in your backswing, if you're a flat swinger, you just kind of bring this club all the way across your body, kind of like that. Whereas if you are more of a vertical swinger, there's more lift. You bring that club up. So it's the feeling more of doing this. You're lifting the club up. So that's basically the difference. And preferably, I like to see people with more of an upright swing, especially people who are older, because, well, not necessarily older, but those who are struggling with distance, because it's a lot easier to get distance with a more vertical swing. And the reason for it is if you look, here's a vertical swing. So this would be extreme, right? Here's a Bubba Watson kind of vertical swing, very, very vertical, hands very, very high. The difference between that and this is I'm going to have a lot more space and time from way up here to accelerate that club versus if I have the club way down here. And also, I'm usually going to have a larger range of motion because my arms and my chest aren't getting in the way. So when I swing very, very flat, my lead arm is kind of going across my chest. So, if you have bigger arms, bigger chest, things of that nature, things are getting in the way, you're going to have, a harder time getting these arms to turn further back like this. Whereas if I go up, now all my chest and my arms aren't really getting in the way of each other. I can get a larger range of motion up here. So those are really the larger range of motion and the more space and time to accelerate the club. That's going to allow me to generate more speed at impact, which is going to translate to distance. So in general, I typically say I like to see a more vertical swing because it helps you get a little bit more distance. Obviously, there's a happy medium, right? If you go really, really super vertical, because really the main reason why you'd even want a flat swing is because theoretically you might be a little bit more consistent. Because when you get very vertical, that club is essentially off plane at the top of the swing. So you have to bring that club down onto plane in the downswing. And that may be a little bit too difficult for some people. So if you swing really, really flat, essentially that club's already on plane and you can just swing down and impact. It doesn't mean that it is for a fact. It just means that usually it's pretty close or it's directly on plane, and pretty much all you have to do is rotate into impact. But you lose a lot of speed doing that. You might be more consistent, but you lose a lot of speed. So you got to find that happy medium in between that works the best for you. So in the 20-minute distance fix course, there is a drill that's called the skyscraper drill. And it's where Clay talks about feeling like you are punching through a roof or a ceiling with your lead hand, and you're trying to get those hands really, really high as you're going up to the top. If you're struggling with distance and you have a flat swing, I check out that drill. You can find that in the 20-minute distance fix. You can find the 20-minute distance fix from the instruction tab. I believe it's in the week 3 of the 20-minute distance fix. But if you go to the instruction tab, let that expand down. It's the first option on there, 20-minute distance fix. You can also find it from the home page. If you click the house icon at the top of the page there, that'll take you to the home page. If you go to the Top Speed Golf System course progress, you'll see the 20-minute distance fix there. It's the first or second course on there as well. All right. So Mark B says, Q, I use V1 Golf to record my swing. Can you show how to identify early extension in my video? Basically, what you can do is draw a line on, well, first of all, you want to film from down the line. So down the line would be basically shooting from this direction, shooting like this. And I would draw a line on your backside at address, and I would also draw a line on the top of your head. Now, when you are drawing these lines on there, it's really, really important that the camera is very still If you have somebody holding the camera, no matter how still they try to hold it, it's going to be moving around a little bit. So in order for these lines to be very accurate, you want to use something like a tripod to hold your phone, or Selfie Golf USA. You can pick up a tripod on Amazon. Just search phone mount tripod on Amazon. I believe you can get one for $15 or something like that. It's not real expensive. Now, it's not super high quality, but something can fit in your bag, and it's got a little spring-loaded thing that'll hold your phone. That's why I'd recommend using, or something called Selfie Golf USA. You can also get those on Amazon, or search Google for their website for it. But basically, what that contraption is, it's a little bit more convenient. It's what we use, the instructors use to record our own swings or record swings with students. But essentially, it's like two bag clips that are connected to each other. One connects to a club or alignment stick, and then one connects to your holds on to your phone, and then you just stick that in the ground, and it can hold it still for you while you're recording. So I'd recommend having something securely hold your device while it records, so that way these lines are very accurate. But if you draw a line on your backside at address, and then on the top of your head at address as well, you can start the swing, get the video going, and if you see in the downswing or even in the backswing that your backside, so let's pretend like the edge of this vent here is the line that you just drew. If you are going up the top of the swing and you see that your backside's coming off of that vent, that would be early extension. And if you see what we see most prevalently is that in the downswing, you see that your backside's coming off of that vent, that would be early extension as well. What you're going to see with most tour players, or pretty much all tour players, is if you draw a line on the backside, you will never see any light between their backside, their hip, and that line. They'll stay on it. So up at the top, they'll be on it, and a lot of times they'll go into it. So they'll be on it, and then in the downswing, they will be on it as well, kind of like that, as you see. So that would be an indication. If you are coming off of that line, that would be an indication that you have some early extension going on. So Aaron S. says, I like the recent video, 3 must-dos with your irons covering the ball. Would the same technique work for hybrids and fairway woods? Yes, any shot that you are hitting, really any shot is you want to cover the ball. If you're trying to get forward shaft lean, that feeling is what you want to have. Now with hybrids and fairway woods, you may not have the appearance as much of forward shaft lean as you would with a wedge, because it may be played a little bit further up in your stance. You might be coming in a little bit more shallow, but you still want to get forward shaft lean with those clubs. Even with the driver, you want the feeling of covering the ball, but you are going to be hitting up on the ball as you're covering it. So with an iron, you might be coming down and you're covering the ball kind of like this, right? This is where I'm impacting the ball. I'm feeling like I'm covering the ball as I'm coming in. Now with a driver, I'm coming in and I'm more like this. So it may not have the feeling that I'm covering the ball because I've released the club a little bit because I'm trying to hit up on it and it's further up in the stance. But the same thing is still happening. I'm still coming through and releasing that club out in front. So yes, you still want that feeling with any shot that you're trying to get some good compression on and some forward shaft lean. That would be ideal. Yes. David W says, do you fix eyes on the golf ball until it is gone, or will that restrict your turn through? Yeah, so you want to be keeping your eye on the ball, until it's gone. Absolutely. So, once it's gone, you can go ahead and let your head come all the way up. But what we see very often is this, right? So you want to make sure that you're coming down. Your eyes are fixed on the back of that golf ball. You hit the golf ball, and then you can go ahead and let your head come all the way up into a nice full finish position. All right. So Robert U says, I tend to pull shorter irons and have an inability to cut or fade a short to mid iron when I shallow square the club face. So if you are pulling shots, what that means is that your face is too close. So what you may need to feel like is that you're kind of holding that face open as you're coming through impact. So to understand what's going on, the easiest way to fix things, this is a really, really big lesson. This is one thing that we talk about in the Top Speed Golf system. A lot of things, that's what I try to do with all my students, is try to help them understand ball flight laws, because it was huge for me. Once I actually started understanding what's going on with the golf ball at contact and why it would do what it does. Now it can get very complex, but if you keep it simple and think of it in this way, and really just you have to remember basically just 3 rules. If you understand those things and get a feel for what happens with the golf ball when you do these certain things, it will make a huge difference for you, and it will allow you to understand what adjustment you may need to make. So, and I would actually write these things down. So the first rule is that the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. So what that means is if you are a right-handed golfer, if this face is square, that ball is going to start mostly right at the target. If this face is open, it's going to start right of the target. If this face is closed, it's going to start left of the target. So that's the first rule. The ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face. So when you hit the golf ball, you should keep an eye on where that ball starts. So that's the first rule. If you're pulling a shot, that means it's starting left, right? And it's continuing to go left without a lot of curvature on it. So that brings me to my next rule, is that the ball will curve away from the club path. So this is kind of a big rule, but the ball is going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, and then it's going to curve away from the club path. The bigger the difference between your face angle and your club path, the larger the amount of curvature. The closer they are together, the less curvature. So if they're in the same direction and you hit it on the center of the face, that there's going to be no curvature on that shot, assuming no elements or wind or a bird comes out of nowhere or something like that, right? So the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face and then curve away from the club path. And this is assuming center face contact. And if you're not familiar with what club path is, that is the side-to-side movement of the club as it's coming through impact. So when somebody says they are swinging in to out, so this is in to out for a right-handed golfer, my club path would be out to the right. This would be in to out, extreme. If someone says they're swinging out to in, that would be kind of like this. For a right-handed golfer, that would be swinging left. If someone says that they're swinging on plane perfectly, that would basically be a 0 club path. That's the club coming down perfectly with a 0 degree club path. So the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face and then curve away from the club path, assuming center face contact. So that brings, and just to kind of rule 2A basically is that the bigger the difference between your face and your path, the more curvature you're going to have on the shot. The smaller the difference, the less curvature you're going to have. You can have no curvature on the shot if they're in the same direction. So that's what's actually happening on a pulled shot. If you hit it with center contact, and a pulled shot I deem as a shot that starts, if you're a right-handed golfer, it starts left and it just continues to go left with no curvature. It's just a straight left shot. If it has a little bit of curvature, I would still call that a pull, but that's basically what's going on there. And then the last piece, the last rule, is that balls struck on certain parts of the face can make a difference as well. So if you hit a ball out on the toe, that ball will, for a right-handed golfer, will tend to want to start a little bit more to the right, and then it will tend to want to curve to the left. So just to explain that in further detail, and the reason why is that when you hit this ball out on the toe, what happens is this face torques open. So the face will actually kind of open up like this. If you see right there, that face opens up. Well, what happens is that's going to make the ball to start a little bit more to the right. And then what happens is it's going to tend to want to put right hand spin on it if you're a right-handed golfer. So if you think about it, the easiest way to think about that is that the ball hits the toe, and then it wants to kind of crawl toward the center of the face. So that's the kind of spin that it puts on it. So the ball will start a little bit more to the right and then curve to the left. Opposite is true for balls struck on the heel. If it's struck on the heel, it will tend to want to close the face a little bit. So the face will come in and it will, boom, it'll close the face a little bit. So the ball will want to start a little bit more to the left, and then it will tend to want to curve to the right. Now, that doesn't mean If you hit it on the heel, it's going to start to the left and curve to the right. It just means it's going to tend to want to do that a little bit more. So you can actually hit a golf shot with a slice swing. You can come down, swing over the top with a square club face, and just cut across the ball and have a huge difference between your face and your path. That if you hit it in the center of the face, it would curve like crazy left to right. But if this ball is, you do that and it is struck off the toe, which is fairly common when you swing over the top quite a bit with a right to left club path, out to in club path. When you do that and you strike it off the toe, it can actually end up being a pretty straight shot, because this shot will tend to make the ball want to start a little bit more to the right, but curve to the left. So it can kind of cancel it out, and it'll give you kind of the illusion that, hey, I just hit it straight, but it didn't go anywhere. Well, the reason why it didn't go anywhere is because you cut across it and you mishit it. You hit it way off the toe. So if you can understand that, I would actually challenge you to go out to the range and go work on that and challenge what I just said. See what happens. And if you do that, then you can understand how to fix the issue. So going back to your question, I know this is a long answer to your question, Robert, but going back to your question, Robert, you said that you're pulling your shorter irons and you have an inability to cut or fade them. So what that means is if you're hitting a pull, that means that your path is out to in, it's moving to the left, and your club face is also in that direction. So again, a pull is a shot that starts left and keeps going left with no curvature. In order to make that happen with center face contact, you have to swing to the left and also have the club face close. So when you fade the ball, you're basically doing the same thing, except your club face is not pointed to the left. It's actually pointed more toward the target. It's a little bit more open. So it sounds like you're just closing the face more with those shorter irons, and you may just need to feel like you're holding the face open as you're coming through. A lot of what golf is just adjusting your feel to get the desired result that you want. So if your intention is to hit a straight shot, and that's what you're trying to do, and the reality is that you hit a pull, well, the easiest way to fix that is to exaggerate the opposite. So the exaggerating the opposite would be trying to hit a push or a block. In order to hit a push or a block, I need to swing in to out with my face in the direction of that club path. And if you do that, then it will most likely end up with a much more straight shot. Now, if you do that and you block it out to the right, then you overdid it. All you have to do is ease off of it. Now, if you do that and you still pull it, exaggerate it even more. Exaggerate it so much that you feel like you're going to block it a mile to the right. Exaggerate it as much as you need to make it happen. So that's basically what it comes down to, adjusting your feeling to get the desired result. It really can be that easy. I think a lot of people complicate this a little bit too much. So next time you go out there, try to hold off, try to get the ball to start to the right. If you're trying to hit a fade with those shorter irons, if that's what you're trying to do, then all you need to do is have your face open to the club path. So try to feel like you are holding that face open. So instead of coming into impact and kind of rolling your hands over, so in slow motion, that would kind of be like that, right? I'm rolling my hands over. I would try to feel like as you're coming into impact, I'm kind of holding that face open like that. That's the feeling. That doesn't mean that's actually what you're going to do. The reality, it's just the feeling that you're going to have. And the reality will likely be that you come in and you square the face instead of closing it too much. So hopefully that makes sense, Robert, and everybody out there who's struggling with ball flight issues, ball starts to the left too much, pulls, slices, hooks. If you understand ball flight laws, you can actually, and just those three rules that I mentioned. So ball starts mostly in the direction of the club face, curves away from the club path. The bigger the difference between your face and your path, the bigger the curvature. The smaller the difference, the less curvature. And this is assuming center face contact. If you strike it on the toe, it's going to tend to want to start a little bit more to the right for a right-handed golfer, then curve to the left. If you hit it on the heel, it's going to tend to start a little bit more to the left, then curve to the right. If you understand these things and you go out to the range, you can fix your ball flight very, very easily. It's just exaggerating the opposite. So if you're hitting a slice, try to hit a hook. If you're hitting a hook, try to hit a slice. If you're hitting a block out to the right, try to pull it. If you're hitting a pull, try to hit a block out to the right. and most likely what will happen is you'll end up, getting that to where it's more of a straight shot. All right. So, Robert, you had another question. Said also the driver in 3 metal. I find it hard to swing up when on the tee while shallowing and squaring. Any advice or demonstration would greatly be appreciated. So it's hard to know without seeing your swing, Robert. But what I would look at is your compression line. That's one of the things that really helps you to hit up on the golf ball. So the compression line is the line at impact. So I'm coming into impact here. It's that line at impact that goes from my lead ankle, my lead hip, and my lead shoulder. So ideally, what we'd like to see is that in a more angled away position if we're trying to hit up on the golf ball. Now with an iron, we like to see that slightly angled away. 2 to 3 degrees angled away is good. Even if you're a little bit vertical, that's fine. It's just going to promote more of a downward angle of attack. But if you're doing that with your driver, it's going to be hard to hit up on the golf ball. So that's what I'd recommend, making sure that you're a little bit more angled away. I've seen people as much as 10 degrees angled away. Now you want to make sure that you get a good weight shift to your lead side, which is a question I get a lot from people. They're like, how can I be angled away and have my weight shifting to the lead side? It's something called momentum. So statically, if I don't have any momentum going that way, if I get in this kind of position right there, of course I'm going to have more weight on the lead side. But in the dynamics of the golf swing, I'm shifting my weight and I've got momentum moving in this direction. So I'm actually kind of bracing into my lead side. It's like when you're walking forward, it's how you don't fall on your face. You've got momentum kind of continuing to bring you forward. So that's what you got to do in the golf swing is you get a brace in your lead side and kind of push out and down and out away from you to keep angled away from the target so you can get this club to release out in front and to get this club to be working up into the golf ball. So that's one thing I would do. One thing I'd also do is check your ball position. In general, I like to have the ball positioned straight down from my lead shoulder socket. So that's going to be about right here. If you're playing it more toward the middle of your stance or just a little bit ahead of the middle of your stance or straight down from your lead ear, which is a ball position that we talk about that's great for shots off the turf. If you're doing that, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that club to work up into the golf ball. So straight down from the lead shoulder is generally where I like to have it. A ball forward, a ball back of that, whatever works best for you. I would try. I also make sure that the ball is teed up high enough. So if you are, in general, you like to have, let's pretend that this is the crown of your driver here. But in general, I like to have about half of the ball above the crown or a little bit more even than that, something like that. But if you have it teed up like this, where the equator of the ball is below the crown of the club, it's going to be a little bit harder to get that upward angle of attack. Another thing that you can do is widen your stance. If you have a very, very narrow stance, it's going to be a little bit harder to get kind of angled away here. So if you get a little bit wider, now it's a lot easier for me to get angled away to get that club to be working up into the golf ball. So just to recap here, number one, check your compression line. Make sure that you're nice and angled away with your driver from the face-on view coming into the golf ball. If you're more vertical, you want to work through our compression line course to get more angled away. And to find that compression line course, click the house icon, scroll down to the Top Speed Golf System course progress. You'll see the compression line course right there. Click on that and start working through the drills. The next piece is making sure, and I may be doing this out of order what I said them, but I'm just doing them in the order that are coming to my mind right now. But making sure the ball is teed up high enough, just above the crown, the equator above the crown of the club. I like that. Making sure that you are wide enough. That's going to help you to get a more angled away approach. So doing all those things should help out quite a bit to hit up on the golf ball. So Mauricio R says, you suggest to lift the left heel in order to ease the turning in the backswing. Is it okay to rotate also the heel pivoting on the left foot ball to max the rotation? Yeah, so it's completely fine. I think what he's asking here is not only is it okay, he's asking, okay, we're saying in order to free up the hips, let's lift up this left heel. So then he's asking, well, is it okay if I go like that? And it is to a certain extent, but you don't want to overdo. You want to be able to get this foot back on the ground. So if you get this foot like this, now I've got a lot more to do to get this foot back down on the ground. So it's about finding that happy medium. If you really need to get this hip, this heel kind of like that, pivoting like that, to get the hips to open up enough to get a full shoulder turn, then I would be definitely doing that. But you want to make sure that you're getting a good weight shift to your lead side and you're planting this foot in the ground. It's got to go back down here. Whereas if you're just kind of lifting this foot like a few inches off the ground like this, it's a lot easier to get that foot planted back in the ground. So you got to find that happy medium that works for you. Yes, you can do that if you need to. But understand that it may be a little bit more difficult for you to get a good plant and pressure going into the ground, into the downswing to help you to, rotate and unleash everything on the golf ball. All right. So Greg M says, is it okay to slightly delay the turning of the shoulders in the backswing until the arms reach approximately parallel to the ground? Is it okay to delay the turning of the shoulders in the backswing till the arms reach? I don't like delaying the turning of the shoulders because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Greg, but it sounds like you're saying don't turn the shoulders until the arms are like this. I really don't like that. And the reason for that is that the shoulder turn is really, really important for distance. So we found a lot of times that if you swing kind of all arms and just kind of lift the club up, and even if you're waiting to here, it's going to be harder to get that shoulder turn to create a lot of speed and distance. So if ideally what would be better is to get those shoulders turning more early in the backswing. So feeling like this is all kind of one piece, the club, the arms, the shoulders. If you get that, the club's moving. So if I go to here where my lead arm is, look how much more shoulder turn I already have. I have a ton of shoulder turn. Even from right here, I can come down to the golf ball with a lot of power. If you come to this point, man, I'm just not going to have as much power in the backswing. So I would say no on that. Hey, if it works for you and you get great results doing that, then that's fine. But I have a feeling that you're probably missing out on a lot of power and distance if you are doing that. So he goes on to say, I found that this keeps my arms from getting too inside too quickly. It makes it easy then to aggressively turn the shoulders fully and then shallow the club in the downswing because my arms aren't stuck behind me. So what I would try to feel like, so it sounds like to me when he turns his shoulders, he does this. You want to make sure that you are lifting and turning. So not only are you turning your shoulders, but the arms are kind of lifting up. So that's what I would try to do, because if you're going like this, it's probably killing your distance, to be honest, if you're just kind of lifting your arms up. So you want to make sure that you get a nice big shoulder turn. But hey, if that's what works for you, then that's completely fine. And you do what you want. And I would really probably need to see your swing to know for sure exactly if you are losing distance and things like that. But I would imagine if you took a club swing speed radar or some sort of swing speed device and put that down there, and you did kind of the all arms, no turn of the shoulders until late swing versus the get the shoulders really involved and lift the arms along with it swing, there would be a lot more distance with or a lot more club head speed with the getting the shoulders more involved early swing. So William, I see your correction there, William C. So William C says, I'm catching a little turf with my irons on the takeaway. How to stop without lifting the club or gripping tighter. So one thing you can do is kind of hover the club. You might be playing the ball too far forward in your stance as well, which is very common when I see people who tell me that they're hitting the turf in the backswing, is that they're playing the ball kind of way up here. Well, the low point of the swing is going to happen basically in here. So if you have the club on the ground here, it's got to go into the ground. So make sure that you've got that club kind of straight down from your lead ear here. That's going to be a little bit ahead of the middle of the stance for shots off the turf. And basically, that puts your club kind of in the middle of your stance. So if the ball is a little bit forward of the middle, that puts your club pretty close to the middle, and then it makes it a lot easier to do that. The other thing is you may be bringing this club too far inside. So if you're catching the turf here, you may be bringing this club in like this. So I would feel like you are lifting more. The shoulders are, the lead shoulder is kind of going down. So that left shoulder, if you're right-handed, is going down, and you're lifting the club more, and that's going to help you. The other thing you can do is kind of hover the club. So this is what I do when I'm in some deep rough. So if I'm in some deep grass or something like that, then what I like to do is I kind of like to hover the club above the ball, because it can, that grass, if you have it sit on the ground, it can interfere. So some people like to have that club off the ground all the time, but personally, I like to have the club on the ground and then just hover it very slightly before I take it back. It's very, very subtle. But out of thick grass, I like to actually have it hovered almost like I'm hitting a bunker shot as I'm going back. So I would try those things, feel like you are lifting the club more. I would look at your ball position. I would look at, see if you're bringing the club way too far inside. And those should help you. Maybe hover the club if you need to. But that's what I would recommend. So Mauricio R says, at straight line release, should the hips be facing the target? No, in the straight line release, everything's going to be pointing at, if you go to the straight line release section, I believe it's one of the first videos in there. Well, Clay talks about the spot that's 4 feet in front of the golf ball. And basically, when you're coming through, everything's releasing to that point. So I'm coming in, and the drill actually has you coming in where your arms are pointing at that point. And then you're coming in, and your hands are pointing at that point. You're coming in, your shoulders are pointing there. You're coming in, your hips are pointing there. So in the straight line release, everything's going to be pointing at that point out in front. So my hips, my shoulders, my arms, my hands, the club, everything is pointing at that piece out in front. The hips don't typically reach at the target until you're coming all the way around and your hands are in front of your chest. That's typically about when they're going to be pointing toward the target there. All right, so Robert Hughes says, while you're speaking about analyzing video, does a plane line run from the club heel through the elbow? Could you draw on the light board the most common lines of analysis? So what you're referring to is the elbow plane. And that, I don't typically like using that because it really, really requires you to have that, requires you to have that camera angle in a perfect position. So in general, and I don't have the perfect camera angle here because it's kind of elevated. The camera's at about eye level here. But in general, you want to have, and we do have a video on the website for how to film your swing. If you just search the word video, and it should come up there. So in the upper right-hand corner, there's a search window. If you search the word video, you'll find that video on how to film your swing. But generally, you want that club or that camera shooting right down your toe line for down the line. You want it to be about waist level, and you want to be far away enough that you and the club never leave the frame. So that's going to be ideal. And if you draw the elbow plane on there, it's not an exact science, but it can give you a pretty good idea of the proper plane in the swing. And that line will go through the hosel of the club up through the point of the elbow. And like I said, it's not an exact science, but it's going to give you a pretty good idea of where the plane is in the swing. What I like to use to see if you're swinging down on plane or not is something called the impact plane line. And the camera angle doesn't have to be as perfect on this. It definitely helps it, but it doesn't have to be as perfect on this for this to be accurate. So what it is when you're coming into impact, at that impact position, you can draw a line along the shaft there. And then from there, you can rewind that to the point where in the backswing, the club is parallel to the ground. So let's say that line was between my golf ball and my hands. Well, this would be signifying a kind of in to out swing. This club would be underneath that line, and that'd be signifying an in to out swing. So that can give you more of an idea of what's going on there, because some people, they'll have early extension, but they come in and the handle's very, very high. So they have early extension, they come in, the handle's very, very high, but they're swinging, their club path is pretty much zero because it's just coming in very, very steep instead. Whereas if you drew that elbow plane line when you did that, it would look like you were swinging over the top. But the reality is that you're swinging on plane, but you're early extending. So if you were to draw that line here where I'm early extending, my handle's really, really high, and you were to rewind it, it would probably show that the club's more on plane. So I like that impact plane line the best. I think that one gives you the best explanation of whether you're on plane or not. But that's the one that I seem to have the best luck with. But again, none of them are exact sciences. The best way to know if you don't need the camera to know if you're on plane or not. You can, based on the ball flight laws I mentioned earlier, you can know if you're on plane or not by looking at your ball flight and then seeing where you struck the ball on the club face. Because if you hit the ball in the center of the club face, then you can just boil it down to face and path, and you can know, okay, where did my ball start? Well, if my ball started straight, I hit it in the center of the club face, and it curved to the right, I know that my club path is too much out to in. And the opposite is true. If I hit a shot center of the face, ball starts straight, hooks to the left, well, that means that my path is too much in to out. So if you can understand the ball flight laws, you don't need a TrackMan. You don't need a camera to show you what you're. You definitely want to use camera for other things, but you don't need a camera to show you if you're swinging in to out. It's just a tool that I use with students when we're working on if there's someone slicing or hooking or doing all sorts of other things to see if they're swinging on plane or not. And again, it's not an exact science. The camera, because of the camera angle, if you were set up a little bit off or it's kind of a skewed camera angle, it can kind of make things look like something that it actually is going on. So hopefully that makes sense. But if you understand the ball flight laws, you'll know exactly what kind of plane you're swinging on. So hopefully that helps. And that's something that we work on in the ball striking masterclass. We just filled up our last class. So hopefully in the next couple months here, we can offer it again. Gets a little bit funny around the holidays, how we want to offer that. So I'm not sure. It may be January until we offer it again just because of the holidays. So I'm not sure if we'll be able to offer it again before then, but we'll see what's going on. So again, I'm on here for another 15 minutes here. So if you got questions, go ahead and post them on there. I'll be happy to answer them. If you're interested in working with me one-on-one, I do have an unlimited swing review program. I do have some spots available. Had some people, kind of stop with the swing reviews because of the winter coming up. Don't have time to practice and stuff like that when the winter's coming up. So if you live somewhere where you can practice or you got an indoor place, I'd love to work with you and do some unlimited swing reviews, figure out what's going on with your game, and help you the most. So, our online programs, they're fantastic, but they can only do so much as a self-guided program. The distance program is awesome. If you get a chance to go through that, it's pretty easy to go through. But working on some swing techniques and stuff like that, it's hard to know what the right thing to work at. We try to set it up so that anybody that can go through it. But some things you can accelerate your progress by working with an instructor, because if you work with an instructor, I can tell you, listen, this is what you need to work on to improve your game the most. And if you work through the system, you'll be working on things that improve your game, but maybe not the things that improve your game the most and the quickest. So that's what I'd recommend doing to anyone. That's why we offer the service, so that those who are looking for some extra help and I'm wanting to accelerate the progress can get that from instructors. So like I said, I don't always have spots available. I do have spots available right now. So if you're interested, go on there and sign up. And if it fills up, join my waiting list, and I will, I'll let you know whenever I get spots available, and you can sign up at that time. So Like I said, I got about 15 more minutes on here, about 14 more minutes now. So if you got questions, go ahead and post them on there, and we'll get them answered. This will be the time because we won't be tomorrow's Thursday, so office hours tomorrow will be in the afternoon, and then Friday will be at 9 a.m. So go ahead and post your questions on there, or you'll have to wait till tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, any questions about swing reviews or any of the programs, ball flight laws that I talked about earlier? Really, really simple to understand those things and make things a lot easier for you if you understand them for sure. All right. So John T says, what is the difference between the 20-minute distance fix and the 2-day distance clinic? The 20-minute distance fix is an online course. It provides videos, and you go through the program on your own. The 2-day distance clinic, you come here to Orlando and you come and see us, and we physically put you basically through the program. We do a lot of basically the same drills that are in the 20-minute distance fix. We are just there with you to basically put you through it and understand all these things. So that's what I'd recommend doing if you're looking to, if you're having trouble with it, because we'll make sure that you're on the right track with it and improving as you go along. So, and generally, whenever people come to our distance clinics, they leave with about 10 miles per hour more club head speed. And that doesn't mean that they're done. They get to stop working. They're good. It just means that over the 2 days that they were there, they went from, let's say they went from 90 to 100 miles per hour on average. It's usually 10 or 11 miles per hour, which that's about 25 yards. So I know everybody would like to hit it about 25 yards further. That'd be awesome. We get some guys that come and they gain a lot more club head speed than that. I've had people come in and get as much as like 26 miles per hour extra. Cause I had one guy who came in, didn't turn his hips at all. So his shoulder turn was basically, because he didn't turn his hips, his shoulder turn only went to there. So he got him to free up his hips, and he got a big old shoulder turn. He was actually a pretty flexible guy, but because he wasn't turning his hips at all, he wasn't getting much of a shoulder turn. And he went from like 80 to 100 and something, just like that, just from turning his hips. So, that's the kind of things that can happen when you come see us. And you get to come hang out with us. You get to come to sunny Orlando, Florida. Not sure where you live, but weather's awesome here right now. It's starting to cool down a little bit. It's not so hot every day. But yeah, if you're looking at the October clinic, weather's going to be awesome in October, especially late October. So you're talking 80s, low 80s probably every day. Might even be in the 70s. So in the morning when we're going to be doing the drills, it'll actually probably be in the 70s, and it'll be gorgeous. We have a great facility. You get great food and lunch. You get to play golf in the afternoon. And then at the end, the last hour of, and I'm not sure if we're going to continue to do this, but it's the way that we've done the distance clinics in the past. After we eat lunch on the last day, when we go back out to the range, we just kind of work on whatever it is you want to work on. So you got me and Robin there. You got a good instructor to student ratio. We only take 10 people for the clinic. So it's a 5-to-1 ratio. And over the course of the hour, you get 10, 15 minutes with us each where we can talk about or work on whatever you want. So it's kind of an added bonus that goes along with it. And if you want to do more in-person instruction while you're here, you can sign up for some in-person lessons with Robin as well. So something to take advantage of if you're looking into doing that. If any more questions about the distance clinic or anything like that, I'll be happy to answer that too. Vico L, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. I've never seen that name before. So Vico L is saying, what's a good drill for working on driver impact smash? So there's all kinds of things that you can do. So number one would be working on the efficiency of your strike. So getting that ball to be more in the center of the club face. That could be stable fluid spine. If you are moving all over the place with your spine, it's going to be hard to get that strike. Excuse me. It's going to be hard to get that strike in the center of the face. So that's what I would recommend is working on your stable fluid spine. What you can also do is some variability training. So what I would try to do is get some foot powder spray, spray it on your driver face, and see if you have a tendency to hit the ball in a certain place. So a lot of times that's what's going on is sometimes people are kind of all over the place, all over the face, heel, toe, high, low on the face, all over. And some people are missing, all the shots basically toward the toe, or all the spots on the bottom of the face, or all the spots are basically in a quadrant of the face. So what you want to do is try to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. So let's say that you're hitting everything on the toe with your driver. So what you would try to do is actually try to hit everything on the heel to adjust your feeling to get the desired result that you want. What will likely happen after that is you'll get that strike more in the center. If you don't, if it's still toward the toe, exaggerate it even more. If you overdo it and you get it in the heel, then ease off of the feeling. I would try to get a few in a row where you get in the center of the face. And then from there, I would try to hit it in all kinds of different parts of the face on purpose. And what that will do is that'll give you an overall general feeling of where the center of the face is, and it'll allow you to hit that center of the face more often. If you have control of where you strike on the face, that's really going to, because that's really your biggest impact on smash factor, which if you're not familiar with smash factor is, other people, it's your ratio of your ball speed to your club head speed. So in general, about the best you can do is about a 1.5. Now, if you're hitting range balls, you want to understand this as well. You're typically not going to be able to get 1.5 with a range ball. And the reason is they're usually junk balls or limited flight balls or things like that. So understand that if you're trying to get a 1.5 smash factor with range balls, you may never get there. You may always be 1.4. On our range here, about the best I can do at the range that I practice at the most here is about 1.43. And it's just because the range balls are kind of, they're not the best. So they're actually not bad. It's just, they're just not going to be as good as a Snell or a Pro V or a TaylorMade TP5 or something like that. You're just not going to get the same as a quality golf ball. So understand that. So hopefully that might be, what's going on there as well. But in general, 1.5 is about as good as you're going to get with a premium golf ball. It's possible to get higher, but in general, you're not going to get much better than that. And that comes from hitting the sweet spot, center of the club face, and getting those quality strikes. So if you can control where you're striking on the club face, that's the thing that will boost up your smash factor the most. If you're hitting a big old slice, that could be an issue as well. Because if you're hitting a big old slice, then you're going to have trouble. You're not going to be able to get that compression on the golf ball. So if you imagine if I have a nail here and I'm trying to drive this nail into a piece of wood, I want to take this hammer and I just want to go straight down into that nail, right? That's going to allow me to transfer as much energy to this nail into the piece of the wood as I can. But if I come at it from this kind of angle, I'm not going to be able to transfer as much energy into that nail, and it won't drive into the wood as much. Same thing's happening when you're hitting a golf shot. I talked about the ball flight laws earlier. If you are cutting across the ball, you are not going to be able to transfer as much energy into that golf ball, and your ball speed is going to go down. So that's the other thing. If you're slicing it, hooking it, if you're having trouble, a lot of curvature on your shots, and typically people are going to have a tendency to hit one way or the other. So I would be working on if it's a hook, then I would go to our Never Hook Again course and work through that course. If it's a slice, I would go through our Never Slice Again course and work through that course. And that's going to be, to get to the courses, you click on that house icon at the top of the page there. That'll take you to the homepage, scroll down to the Top Speed Golf System course progress, and go about halfway down. You'll see the Never Slice Again and Never Hook Again courses. All right, let me get through the rest of the questions here. We've got about 5 minutes left. All right, so Bill A, let me make sure I'm not skipping anybody. Yep, okay, so Bill A was the next question. Bill A says, is it all right to move your head back and up on the backswing if you return on the starting position at impact? In general, I don't like to do that because if you're moving your head back and up, that means you are moving, your spine is not stable. And that's one of the key pieces. That's one of the key pieces in the Tatsumi system. And usually if you're moving your head back and up, that is a product of you sliding in the backswing, which means you're not rotating your hips. So what I would try to feel like, and what you're going to see with most tour players, is that their head will maybe move back slightly, but it will actually go down. So they'll actually kind of end up kind of in this position, but their hips won't. If you drew a line on the outside of their hip here, you will not see them cross that line in the backswing. Now you'll see some long drive guys who really go like that, but you'll also see that they're turning their hips as well. They're trying to hit the ball as far as they can. They're just trying to get one ball in the grid. In general, I wouldn't recommend trying to do a long drive style. If you're wanting some consistency, then you want that good mix of consistency and distance, I'd make sure that you are staying nice and stable with your spine and you're turning that hip back and out of the way. So it's hard to say without seeing your swing exactly, but in general, I would say I wouldn't want to do that. That excessive movement is typically going to lead to some inconsistencies. It's going to be, if your head is kind of moving around everywhere, like I said, it's all right for the head to move around a little bit, but if it's moving around a lot like that, you're going to have a hard time keeping an eye on that golf ball and hitting it in the center of the face. So not sure if you struggle with your strikes or not, but that may be why. And if you want me to take a look at your swing and see what's going on, I'd be happy to work with you. Again, I do have some spots open in my Element Swing Review program. If you click on that Learn More above the video for working with a one-on-one with an instructor, you can sign up there, or you can always click Get a Review at the top of the page to get there. So Lee G says, any plans to open a clinic in Palm Springs? Right now, we don't have any plans to do clinics anywhere but here in Orlando. So if we did go somewhere, it would probably be another state. It would maybe be the other side of the country, Arizona, West Coast, Arizona, California. If we were to go somewhere, I'm not saying we have plans to do that. It would be basically further away from here. We would hope from Palm Springs, you guys would be able to come to see us here in Orlando. But yeah, we don't have any plans to do any clinics anywhere else at this time. They're all in Florida, but we'd like to in the future. But like I said, it would probably be a whole nother state, not in Florida. So John L says, I play 9 holes right after work. No time to practice. I typically hook the first two or three tee shots into the woods. Then I settle down and shoot great golf. Last night, 8 over par in the first 3 holes and 1 over for the last 5. Any tips? So yeah, I understand. One thing to keep in mind is that if you don't do any practice or any kind of warm up before you play, you can basically kind of expect those first few holes to be not as good until you settle in. So that's very typical. So keep that in mind, that you're probably never going to get rid of the few kind of errant shots before you kind of get settled down. So the first thing I'd recommend is trying to get a little bit of practice in beforehand. But if you can understand, if you're hooking shots, remember I'm not sure if you were here earlier when I was talking about ball flight laws, but essentially, and I may write these down on the board behind me so you guys can see those in the future. But essentially, the ball is always going to start mostly in the direction of the club face, then curve away from your path, assuming center face contact. So if you hit it on the toe, it's going to tend to want to draw more and start to the right. If you hit it on the heel, it's going to tend to want to start to the left more and fade more. So it sounds like to me that you're swinging very much into out initially. So I would actually try to hit a cut shot. Try to get the ball to start left and then fade to the right. So that's what I'd recommend doing. If you go to our Never Hook Again course and work through those drills, that can give you an understanding that basically that whole program is to help you to learn how to hit a fade, essentially. So once you get that down, then you can get that ball working left to right. So hopefully that helps. But yeah, I would go through our Never Hook Again course and start. I would actually on the tee try to hit a fade initially, and hopefully that'll get you on track with your game. But understand, if you don't do any kind of practice beforehand, it's common nature. And actually, a lot of times when that is the case, we do what's called the breakfast ball. Right, you get 2 shots off the first tee to kind of help you get settled in. Because a lot of times, if you don't practice that first one, it isn't a real great one. So no harm in that, taking 2 off the tee and taking the one that if you're not doing any practice that gets you going on the best track. So this will be the last question here from Robert. You asked that if we can be contacted by phone. Yes, we do have a phone number, but we aren't always available to answer the phone. Also, understand that when you're calling our phone number, it's for customer support. You're not going to get in contact with instructors or be able to ask instruction questions or anything like that. It's really just like if you have billing issues, password login issues, or anything like that. The best way to really get a hold of us is just to email support. So that'd just be support@topspeedgolf.com. If you call us, like I said, we're not always available to answer the phone. We are a very small team. We don't always have someone available to answer the phone. So typically you'll leave a voicemail and we'll get back to you as soon as we have some time, essentially. But really the best way to get in contact with us is to email support@topspeedgolf.com if you have support issues. If you're looking to get instruction questions answered, this is going to be the only place to do that, unless you sign up for unlimited swing reviews. And then at that point, you'll get access. If you sign up for my unlimited swing reviews, you'll get access to me. So you won't get my phone number, but you will be able to email me and contact me through there and get your questions answered through email. So that's a nice perk of having that. So yes, we do have a phone number. I don't know it off the top of my head. Let me look that up real quick so I can tell you. So the phone number is 1-888-730-7557. So again, if those are just for customer support issues, if you're looking to talk to an instructor, you'll want to contact me through here. So thanks everybody for joining me today. We'll be back here tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next time.